All right. Welcome to the podcast special episode, a double guest episode. We rarely do this. It's going to be an awesome episode. Welcome to the show, Caroline Potteiger and Rachel Costello. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, we got two awesome goalies. I take that back. We got three awesome goalies. I'm putting myself in the mix. And we're going to be talking a little special episode. Our mutual friend, great coach, great guy, Coach Brad Gigliotti reached out and said, we've got this awesome documentary in the works about goalie mental health. And here we are. Let's do a podcast and let's talk about it. But I first want to sort of start by defining what we're talking about when we talk about goalie mental health. What does that mean to you when I say like mental health? And so let's define what it is, and why do you think it's particularly challenging for us goalies? Who wants to start with that one?
I can start. So when I think of mental health, I think of, the anxieties, the depression, all the like kind of stigma behind these illnesses and just those kind of things. Specifically within goalies, I think playing goalie is a very individualistic position, and a lot of the times we are the ones that people fall back on and who kind of take the blame for, letting the ball in the net even though it went through, nine players before us. We're the ones that it's like we're the last line of defense. So I think that goalie mental health is definitely something that needs to be talked about more. And even those individualistic positions as well as like pitchers, catchers, quarterbacks, things like that, just because there's so much pressure on the individuals.
Hmm. Yeah, you have this interesting dynamic where it's like it is an individual like position within a team sport, right?
Right.
Like where if I'm playing tennis, and granted, there's probably levels of anxiety and depression in all sports, right? But if I'm playing tennis, like I don't have this feeling like I'm letting others down. I'm letting myself down, which hurts, right? But there's this other pain of like all of these other girls or guys looking at me like, hey, you just let in that goal as the goalie. And so I kind of feel this, I don't know, additional level of anxiety. Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah. Have you guys both, I guess we're going to get into that when we talk about the documentary, but I imagine, struggling with mental health is something that you've both battled. So I don't know, Rachel, do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about your
Yeah.
story?
Yeah, I have struggled with mental health almost my whole entire life. I didn't get diagnosed until I was a senior in high school with anxiety, and then later on in college I also got diagnosed with depression. But, sports was something where I felt like sports was my therapy, and so there's a point where sports can be helpful and sports can, take that anxiety or that depression away for a little while, and, you seek out going to that goal, putting that helmet on as a way of, taking a break from your own life. And I think that that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I liked, going into the goal, I was able to put everything else on a shelf and be able to just focus on what I was doing there. But at a certain point, it sometimes can be anxiety inducing. Our mistakes are put on that scoreboard. And so, I think that that's something that I had to train myself, not only physically train myself to perform well in the goal, but also train my brain to know, every time that ball is going to go in the net, it's okay. I just got to focus on that next shot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One of the main questions that I have in my head right now is, what is anxiety? What does it feel like to you guys? Because I would get pregame nerves, and sometimes I would get them really bad, right? And I imagine, if you're a goalie and you're playing in meaningful games, like you're going to experience that, right? Is that anxiety or no?
I think it can be a start. I think being nervous is, your body's telling you to do something about the situation that you're in. And I think like being nervous for a game is gonna be it's gonna happen to every athlete. I mean, it shows that you care about the sport that you're playing. It shows that you care about where you are and what you're doing. But I think that it can be really debilitating. And if you don't, um, kind of do something about that or seek help or have somebody to talk to about that, it can be, isolating. You can feel really lonely in your mind. And I think that that's kind of where we want to, you know, start talking about it, start being able to share with your teammates, with other friends about, these emotions and these thoughts that we're having.
Yeah. Is that how you would define it too, Caroline? Or how does, I don't know, sort of anxiety um show up in your goalie world?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of anxiety when I'm playing goalie, or I have in the past. Definitely like being the only goalie for 3 years at my old school was really anxiety ridden because I felt
Mm.
like I had to be in every single drill the whole time. I got no breaks. Like it was just this constant thing of, okay, you have to stop everything. And I kept like putting that pressure on myself. And that did give me anxiety. And it wasn't fair to me, obviously, to be putting that on myself. And I would get like super bad panic attacks in net. And I would just have to step out for a sec and then I would have to go back in because I was the only goalie. And for me, like that was peak anxiety, like having those panic attacks and like being like non-responsive, and then having to just go back in the net and just play through that. That was the biggest issue with me.
Yeah, it reminds me of Mackenzie Porter, who I think you guys know as well, right? Because she's worked the 6x6 camp. And we talked about that pretty exclusively on the podcast, where she was the only goalie on her team. And we dug in deep because I was like, in a certain way, like a lot of goalies might be thinking, oh wow, that's cool. Like I'm the goalie, I'm gonna start. Like, but it's not. It's like it's very anxiety ridden because, like you said, Caroline, like you're the only goalie, and like when you take one off the shin, like there's no other goalie like, hey, like can you jump in and like handle this drill? And so yeah, that situation takes some tightrope walking as well.
Yes.
And you can listen to how Mackenzie handled it because she had a lot of great tips. So yeah, let's talk about this documentary. It's called Unmasked, and I would love to hear kind of the idea behind it. And yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. So this past spring, I don't even know what got me thinking about it. I'm a film and video production major, so that's kind of like my whole thing. I love making films and just like producing that kind of stuff. That's my niche. That's what I love. And so this past spring, I was thinking, oh, like I really love going to 6x6 camp. I really love being a part of Goalies Matter. What can I do to like show everybody and to like spread awareness? Because yeah, I can post stuff and like do this and that and show up to camp, but what can I want to make a big impact on this community? And I was like, well, what better way than to use my film skills and produce something that people can watch and that'll be out there about this and that it's, awesome. So I reached out to Rachel because Rachel also goes to 6x6 camp and I know she does some media, mostly like photographs and videos of sports teams. But she's really good with graphics and I'm not. So I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, do you want to help me do this? Like, let's just do it." And she was like, "Absolutely." And I was like, "Perfect." So we started making a plan for it. And then we started doing some pre-filming where we interviewed gigs about 6x6 and about Goalies Matter. And then at 6x6 camp, we did a lot of the recording, B-roll interviews type thing. And then over the past like 2 months, I've just been editing the crap out of this thing. And I'm so excited for it to be done. But I'm excited for it to be released and for everybody to see it. But yeah, we just wanted to make an impact doing something that we knew how to do. And yeah,
Well, that's amazing. Congrats. And when do we have a release date or not yet?
we do. It's going to be October 10th,
Okay.
which I believe is World Mental Health Day. If
Yep.
I'm, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So a bit on the nose, but it's all right.
That's all right. Well, very well timed. Perfect timing, right? That's awesome. And so like what like I mean, I don't want you to give away, spill all the beans about what the documentary is, but like are you just interviewing a lot of goalies and having them share their mental health journey and a lot of coaches and having them share kind of some tips that will help? Is that kind of the concept?
Yeah, I mean, we have like two stories. So we're doing my story, and then Rachel's friend Amanda from college is sharing her story as well. And she's also a licensed therapist. So we
Hmm.
kind of get her take on that. We also interviewed Brad Gigliotti
Yep.
about like 6x6 camp and about what Goalies Matter stands for. And then we interviewed Hudson Bardeja, which is a 6x6 counselor, and he was just kind of talking about camp and what it meant to him and everything. And then we also did an interview with JJ Martin, who is
Mm,
Robert Martin's brother, um, who died by suicide a few years ago. So we kind of get his take on that.
beautiful. Beautiful. What, in making of this movie, what would you say that you learned anything new about how goalies can kind of handle their mental health problems?
Um, I haven't edited the licensed therapist part yet. I know Rachel sat in on that yesterday, I think it was. But I've heard JJ's story a few times, but kind of seeing him like express how he was feeling and going back and editing that and then just see it like all come together was definitely like the most impactful part while doing this whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about the goalie being a position, where you're very susceptible to mental health problems. And I think one of the first tips is, just kind of have somebody to talk to, right? And knowing that there's other people out there who kind of are suffering with the same issues that you are. And I think that's what this documentary is going to do. And am I right about that? I mean, is that kind of the first tip you'd say to a young goalie who says like, "Hey, I'm like having depression and I'm having like really high levels of anxiety. How could we help that goalie?"
Yeah, definitely the first step is telling someone, and if they're coming to me, they've already told me. And
Right.
then just kind of working through that and seeing, how they feel, why they feel what they feel, what makes them feel that, those kind of things, and then learning like the skills that we can do, to help in those anxiety-ridden moments.
What are those?
Um, well, for me, when I'm going through like a high anxiety situation, especially on the lacrosse field, I usually take a second, I count to 10. I sometimes pray if I really need it. And I think that helps calm me down.
Yeah.
But obviously, like being the only goalie on that other team was hard because I couldn't step out all the time.
Yeah.
So kind of just finding those ways to like cope in the net while you're in the net and while you're like trying to focus on the ball is important as well.
Yeah. What has worked for you, Rachel?
Well, Caroline's the person who I always call whenever I need to talk to someone. So I always have Caroline in my back pocket when I need her. But I really focus on my breathing. So breathing is a big
Mm,
thing for me. I do a lot of meditation. And so I think that, learning to do that in a quiet space is very helpful to be able to do it when there's a lot of noise. Right before you're about to get in the goal, everybody's yelling, everybody's getting really hyped for the game. And sometimes that can be really nerve wracking. And so, being able to slow my mind down, slow my heart rate down, just control what I can control. And that's my breathing for me. And just being able to kind of, you know, isolate all of that outside noise and just get focused is something that helps me calm my anxiety down.
nice. Yeah. Yeah, the breathing piece is so key, and meditation, yeah, is very nice. Two very good tools that, I think all goalies should incorporate. There's also this other element, and I want to hear if you ladies have struggled with this, because female in the female game of lacrosse, like only the goalie wears pads, right? Like in the men's game, like when we get in the huddle, like yeah, I mean you could tell the goalie because they got a chest protector and a different stick, but everyone's wearing a helmet. We pretty much, I feel like there's just more of this element of like, wow, that goalie's very different looking, right? And then maybe they can feel a little bit isolated when you couple that with the fact that we do have a position where it's like, all right, goalies, go do your isolate your go do get your work down there, right? Have you seen that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I can say that it is. I
Yeah.
think that I mean, I also coach youth club lacrosse now that I graduated and I love it. But being a goalie coach, I'm the one who's now taking all of those kids away from big group and coaching them and stuff like that. And they can kind of feel like either I get one end of the spectrum. It's either I want to stay with everybody or I'm so happy that I get to focus on my exact
Hell.
position work.
Right.
So, with the younger goalies, they kind of want to hang out with their friends and stuff like that. But once we get working on the drills, they kind of say, okay, this is my time. And for the first time, they actually get their time having a goalie coach or having a separated practice. And then once you're back involved with the whole team, you know, I hear those low defenders say, good save and stuff like that. And I think that
Yeah.
that's changing in youth sports. I don't think that I heard a lot of that growing up for me, because I mean, most goalies, it's either, hey, we don't have a goalie, you want to step in, and that's how a lot of these young female goalies are getting into this position, and that's how I got into the position. So it's not something that you kind of really choose most of the time, but once you choose it and once you get into it, you most of the time everybody absolutely loves it. And that was the case for me, and I've ran with it for years now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's I mean, I love that goalie time personally. That was, and and I think, like you said, once you get back into the team, I mean, you are a part of the team, and so if you don't feel that way, then it speaks a lot to the relationships that you have, and so you might have to, do some work, some team building work there. But to your point of, if there's coaches or parents listening to this, like always, support the goalie. Like that's why lacrosse has this culture of like, go get the goalie, go hug the goalie. Goalies go first in the save line. Like make sure no of the girls or the young guys on your team like are ever, whether verbally or via body language, like talking down to the goalie and get making them feel bad because kind of like a NFL kicker, we got these fragile psyches, right? But anyway, I mean that's just good, good youth sports in general. Um, not even specific to goalie, but especially with goalie, I'd say, right? Yeah. All right. Awesome. Any other I don't know, any other like tips about mental health that we want to talk about? What are like we talked about anxiety, we talked about depression. Are there other ways that it kind of flares up or other symptoms we should be on the lookout for?
I definitely think that, you know, we'll get the therapist side of this in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but kind of like the other, this month is National Suicide Prevention Month, and I think that all over social media there's a bunch of other ways you can tell if a loved one or if yourself is going through something like that. Like isolating yourself, not acting like yourself,
Mm.
pushing people away. And I definitely think that we need to recognize these signs more. I think mental health has gotten um, quite bad over the past couple of years. And, that's what we're trying to bring attention to in this documentary. So I think just, noticing those signs, checking up on your loved ones, making sure that everybody is okay is a big thing. Just sending that text like, "Hey, you okay? Are you doing
Mm.
all right?" I know
Yeah.
Rachel called me yesterday because I hadn't been like on my phone that much just because I'm a bit stressed with this documentary coming out, but she FaceTimed me yesterday and she was like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I was like, "No." And I just kind of unloaded on her. And
Mm.
for her to do that for me, like this morning I woke up and I felt so much better just knowing that somebody was there for me and that listened to me is important and is the first step.
That's good. That's really good. Because I was going to ask, what do we do in that scenario when someone comes to you with that heavy stuff, or you see them isolating, you see them pushing people away. What do we do? And it sounds like the first answer is, that check-in text, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
text and a phone call can go a very long way.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I'm not great at that. Like helping out in that scenario, but I can do the check-in and the phone call, but I do a lot of these sessions, right? These goalie training sessions, and a lot of time I have the expert on there, and then I'm like reading this question from like a young goalie, and I'm just like, wow, that is intense. Like, please answer that one because I have no idea like how to answer that. So I've got the experts on there, but that could be also another, way is get them plugged in with either the right therapist, the right goalie. Like, oh, I don't know how to handle that, but you know what? Like Coach Giggs and Caroline and Rachel actually have gone through that or know someone who's gone through that, and I could put you in contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was interviewing gigs, sorry, this just popped into my mind. Um, a big part of the documentary is gigs talking about having conversations. I
Mm,
think that's the main thing that we emphasize and that we preach in Goalies Matter is that you have this big community that's here to just listen to you and hear what you have to say. And they don't even have to give you advice. They can just listen to you. And when you start that conversation, like you could save somebody's life
mm,
is the emphasis that we put on those conversations because they're really truly that important.
Yeah.
yeah.
Most of the time you don't need to get advice, or I'm not calling somebody to have them tell me what to do. I'm just calling somebody because I just need to talk and I just need to get these feelings that I have off my chest and out of my mind and
Mm,
just release
yeah.
them. And so most of the time it's like I don't need to call a licensed therapist. I don't need to call 988. I just need to be able to express what I'm feeling and just get it out of my system. And then, knowing that, having somebody there saying it's okay to not be okay makes somebody like just feel so much better, feel relieved that these feelings and these emotions that I'm currently in the state of mind I'm in right now is not going to last forever, and it's going to pass, and I'm going to be okay. I just need some time, and there's a new day, there's a new week, there's a new month, and that's going to continue.
Oh, I love that. That's really good. Yeah. Yeah, my typical male self always wants to solve the problems. You tell me a problem and I'm gonna tell you the solution, but sometimes that's not that's not what the best thing is, right? It's about just sort of being there and having that space available. You mentioned something that I didn't know about. 988. What's that?
Yeah, it's the suicide hotline number here in the United States. And so it got changed from a 1-800 number now to a shorter number, 988, that you can call if you are in a crisis or if you are thinking about suicide or just having some really negative thoughts. It's a resource that you can call and speak to somebody.
Oh, that's nice. That's awesome. 988. Okay. And uh the story. So you have this what was his name? JJ Martin. His and his brother was a goalie. Could you maybe give us a little bit about kind of the story there for those that
Yeah,
don't know?
I mean, I can give you a quick overview.
Yeah.
But we hear more about JJ's story and JJ's testimony in the documentary that is coming out. Yeah. But
October
yeah,
10th.
October 10th. But yeah, we had JJ on and he's come to camp and talked at Goalies Matter night a few years ago. And so his brother, Robert Martin, died by suicide a few years ago. And he was a goalie and he felt the pressures of being a goalie and depression in his life. And um, yeah, I don't want to say anything wrong, so you guys are just gonna have to wait for that. But it's
Hmm.
definitely a touching story.
Yeah.
Editing it was really hard for me because, JJ is one of my close friends,
Mm,
and I care about him. So editing that was pretty difficult, but it's really insightful and it's really, really meaningful.
that's great. Well, I can't wait to watch. Where do we, is it going to be on YouTube?
Yes, it's gonna
Okay.
be on my YouTube channel, I think.
So where, like, you could send me the link, or is there going to be like a special
Yeah.
link?
Yeah, we're gonna put it in, I'll probably put it in both of my bios, both my media account and my regular account bio. But yeah,
Yep,
it's gonna
I'll
be
be
on
doing the same.
Okay.
I'll be doing the same.
And it'll probably be on the Goalies Matter page
Yes.
as well, I
Oh
imagine.
yes.
Yes.
So
It will
that'll probably be
also
the
be
easiest
linked.
way,
Yes.
Yep.
goaliesmatter.net.
Yes,
Um,
goaliesmatter.net. It'll be on there.
which, yeah, I mean, talk to me about some of the resources that, Coach Giggs and you guys have at Goalies Matter.
I
Um,
can
yeah, go for it.
I could talk about the backups just because, we Gigs and I have been talking about it, promoting it as much as we can, and so we're Gigs wanted to start a mentorship program, with Goalies Matter, having the starters and the backups, and the backups are the mentees or the mentors, and then the starters are the mentees, and so having just a place where you can have one-on-one, um, not necessarily like training, but a person to be there, a person to be your backup. When you're a starter and you're struggling either in the cage or just mentally, you have that backup. You have that backup goalie to lean on, and so I think that's where he wanted to start the mentorship program in that way. And there's a link to sign up for both being a mentor and a mentee on the website right now too.
That's
And
cool.
there's also a bunch of different resources on goaliesmatter.net's website. We have like the 988 hotline and some other numbers. We also have Be Nice on there, and just a lot of other resources that people can access like with a few clicks.
Okay. Goaliesmatter.net. That is awesome. Oh, he's already got a little something, something on there. Our first documentary,
Yeah, he was
Unmasked.
very excited to put that on there.
Very cool. Awesome. Did we hit it all? Any other issues or burning questions you think that the goalies need to know about?
Um, no, I don't think so.
All right.
I will
Well,
say this.
go
Oh,
ahead.
I will say one thing. Um, just one last little thing. I hope that two things come out of this documentary. I hope that the first thing is if you're a goalie and you watch this documentary, that you feel included finally, that you feel like you have a community,
Mm.
that somebody's going through exactly the same thing that you've gone through, and that you can reach out to Goalies Matter and become a part of our community. And then the second thing is if you're not a goalie, if you're a parent or a coach or a ref or just somebody that's watching our documentary, we hope that you can finally understand what it feels like to be a goalie and get those stories and know how mental health can affect goalies differently. So those are the two things. Yeah.
All right. Well, that seems like a beautiful place to end it. Unmasked is the documentary coming out October 10th. Awesome topic, and thank you so much for bringing this all to light. And Rachel and Caroline, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.